If I told you that the entire body of knowledge about materials that humanity has painstakingly gathered over the last 800 years was crushed by a single machine in just a few weeks, would you believe me? This isn't science fiction. We are no longer just racing against other nations or competing corporations. We are racing against an entity that has effectively deleted the concept of time. Welcome to the collapse of human limits. This is the 800-year race that AI just finished in days. To understand why this number has sent such shockwaves through the scientific community, let's look at how we've worked in the past. For centuries, discovering a new stable material was like winning the lottery while blindfolded. Human scientists had to rely on a painstaking process of trial and error, mixing elements, heating them, cooling them, and then praying that the atoms would bond in a stable way. Think about this. In the entire history of human civilization up until recently, we had only identified about 48,000 stable crystal structures. These are the building blocks of everything, from the battery in your pocket to the solar panels on your roof. It took hundreds of years of brilliant minds, massive laboratories, and billions of dollars in funding to find those 48,000 items. We thought we were doing great. We thought we were at the peak of our game. And then Google DeepMind introduced a system called Genome, short for Graph Networks for Materials Exploration. Genome didn't go into a physical lab. It didn't use beakers or furnaces. Instead, it treated the periodic table like a massive puzzle and used deep learning to predict which combinations of elements would actually hold together in the real world. In a matter of weeks, Genome predicted 2.2 million new stable crystals. Let that sink in for a second. 48,000 in 800 years versus 2.2 million in less than a month. If you do the math, AI just expanded our map of the material universe by more than 45 times in the blink of an eye. Scientists estimate that this level of discovery would have taken humans another 800 years of traditional research to achieve. AI didn't just break the speed limit, it completely redefined what speed even means in science. But why does this crystal count actually matter? It's not just a numbers game. You see, every one of those 2.2 million predictions represents a potential miracle material. Out of that massive list, researchers have already identified 380,000 structures that are highly stable. These are the materials that could lead to batteries that never overheat, superconductors that work at room temperature, or electronics that are 10 times more efficient than what we have today. The genome shock wasn't just about the quantity, it was about the realization that human intuition has reached its ceiling. We used to think that scientific progress was a steady upward slope, but with genome, that slope has turned into a vertical wall. In the past, a PhD student might spend their entire career, 5, maybe 10 years, trying to synthesize one single new material. Now, they can log on to a database and find thousands of potential candidates tailored to their specific needs. We've moved from the era of searching for needles and haystacks to an era where we have a magnet that pulls every needle out at once. However, this explosion of data creates a new massive problem. Discovering a material on a computer is one thing, actually making it in a lab is another. This is where the gap between human capability and AI intelligence starts to widen. While the AI is dreaming up millions of possibilities in a digital cloud, our physical robots and human hands are struggling to keep up. We're now living in a world where we have 800 years worth of work sitting on a hard drive waiting for us to catch up. And as we'll see in the next section, this time compression isn't just happening in the lab. It's about to change the very objects you touch and the energy that powers your life. But materials are not just numbers on a piece of paper. They're the backbone of electric vehicles, the armor of spacecraft, and the vital organs of a planet that is rapidly warming up. Every global crisis we face today, from climate change to the energy bottleneck, is at its core a material science problem. For decades, we've been stuck. We've wanted batteries that charge in seconds and last for weeks, but we couldn't find the right chemical cocktail. We've wanted jet engines that are light enough to save fuel, but strong enough not to melt. In the old world, solving these problems took generations, but AI just hit the fast forward button. Take a look at NASA's latest breakthrough, a superalloy called GRX-810. Under normal circumstances, creating a material that can withstand the extreme heat of a rocket engine while being twice as strong and 1,000 times more durable would take years of trial and error in a high-tech forge. NASA engineers used AI-driven evolutionary algorithms to simulate millions of atomic interactions. The result? A material that can survive temperatures up to 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, designed in a fraction of the traditional time. This isn't just about going to Mars, it's about right here on Earth. Think about the electric vehicle in your driveway. The biggest hurdle to mass adoption isn't the design, it's the battery. We need magnesium or calcium-based batteries to move away from scarce lithium. Traditionally, discovering a single porous oxide material suitable for these next-gen batteries would take 10 to 20 years of intense laboratory research. Generative AI models just compressed that 2-decade timeline into a mere 24 months. We're talking about a 90% reduction in development time. Why does this matter so much? Because we are in a race against the clock. The climate crisis doesn't care about our slow research cycles. To hit net zero emissions, we don't just need good materials, we need miracle materials, and we need them yesterday. AI is giving us the tools to bypass the slow, grinding gears of 20th century engineering. But it goes even deeper than energy. Look at our aircraft. Engineers at Airbus recently used AI to design a bionic partition, a wall inside the plane inspired by the cellular structure of bones and slime mold. It looks like something grown in a lab rather than built in a factory. Because of AI's optimized design, this part is 45% lighter than traditional versions. Across an entire fleet of planes, that weight reduction translates to 1 million tons of carbon emissions saved every single year. This is the AI dividend. It's the ability to find the perfect arrangement of atoms to solve our most desperate problems before it's too late. It's a sense of urgent hope. For the first time in history, our ability to innovate is finally starting to move at the speed of the problems we've created. However, as we accelerate, we're starting to see something strange. These AI-designed alloys and bionic parts share a common trait. They are incredibly complex, so complex that they often mimic the structures of living biology. And this brings us to an even startling realization. If AI can redesign the inorganic world of metal and silicone this fast, what happens when we let it loose on the very code of life itself? Because as it turns out, the same algorithms that are building better batteries are now beginning to rewrite the history of evolution. Because if you think compressing 800 years of material science into a few weeks is impressive, wait until you see what AI is doing to the timeline of life itself. For billions of years, biology has moved at a glacial pace. Evolution relies on random mutations and natural selection, a trial and error process that takes millions of years to design a single new protein or a defensive mechanism against disease. But we are now entering the era of digital evolution, where AI simulates these biological leaps in just a few days. The most terrifying and exciting example of this is the discovery of halicin. For decades, we've been losing the war against superbugs. Antibiotic resistance is a slow-motion pandemic, and human researchers haven't discovered a truly new class of antibiotics in over 30 years. The traditional trial and error in labs simply couldn't keep up with how fast bacteria evolve. Then, researchers at MIT trained a machine learning model to look at molecules differently. The AI didn't just look for patterns humans already knew, it identified a compound that kills bacteria by a mechanism so unique it was almost alien. It disrupts the electrochemical gradient across their cell membranes. In plain English, it essentially pulls the plug on the bacteria's battery. The AI found this in a matter of days. What would have taken humans decades of failed experiments, AI solved by thinking outside the biological box. But it doesn't stop at killing bacteria. AI is now designing life from scratch. Consider proteins. They're the workhorses of your body, responsible for everything from digesting food to firing neurons. In nature, a new protein takes eons to evolve. Today, scientists are using AI to design de novo proteins, structures that have never existed in the natural world.
In one landmark experiment, AI-generated proteins were able to restore bacterial growth and even block CRISPR systems. Essentially, we are compressing hundreds of millions of years of biological evolution into a computer simulation that runs over a weekend. This is the collapse of the trial and error wall. In a traditional lab, a scientist might test 10, maybe 20 cell combinations in a month. AI systems, like the ones used to create xenobots, tiny biological machines made from frog cells, can simulate billions of cell combinations in hours to find the one shape that can self-heal or carry a payload. We're moving from a world where we discover biology to a world where we architect it. This shifts the conversation from objects we use to the very essence of who we are. AI is no longer just a tool for building better gadgets, it's becoming the lead designer of the biosphere. But this brings us to a chilling realization. When you accelerate evolution by 1,000,000 times, you bypass the natural checks and balances that kept life in equilibrium for eons. We are creating proteins nature didn't intend, drugs that bacteria can't recognize, and biological machines that can repair themselves. But here's the twist. As these designs become more efficient, they also become more unhuman. When an AI designs a protein or a drug candidate, it doesn't use human logic. It uses a hyper-complex math that we're only beginning to squint at.
And that leads us to the most unsettling part of this 800-year race. We have the results, we have the cures, we have the materials, but do we actually know how they work? Or are we just passengers in a vehicle that is accelerating beyond our ability to steer? This is the black box problem. For the first time in history, we are using tools that we did not logically think through in the traditional sense. When a human engineer designs a bridge, we can point to every bolt and explain why it's there. But when Google's Alpha chip arranges a processor in a way that outperforms human engineers, or when an AI proposes a chemical reaction that chemists never predicted, the why starts to disappear. We are entering an era of output over understanding. Researchers admit that in many of these cases, the AI's solutions are so hyper-complex that they defy human intuition. We accept the 2.2 million new crystal structures because the data says they are stable, but we are effectively using a map of the universe drawn by a mind that doesn't think like ours. If we continue to build our future on foundations we don't fully comprehend, what happens when something goes wrong? How do you fix a mistake in a logic you never understood in the first place? Beyond the technical confusion, there is a looming legal and ethical nightmare. If an AI like Dabus creates a fractal-shaped food container that improves heat transfer or discovers a drug that saves millions, who is the inventor? Currently, patent offices in the US, the UK, and the EU have rejected applications listing AI as an inventor, insisting that only a natural person can hold that title. But this creates a dangerous vacuum. If we refuse to recognize the AI's creativity, but we also admit that humans didn't actually do the work, who owns the intellectual property? Does it belong to the corporation that owns the server, or does it belong to no one? This isn't just about money, it's about responsibility. If an AI-designed virus or a bionic aircraft part fails, who is liable? You can't put an algorithm on trial. We are accelerating toward a world where the speed of innovation has completely outrun our legal and moral frameworks. We have successfully compressed 800 years of progress into a single decade, but we haven't found a way to compress 800 years of human wisdom to match it. We are essentially handed the keys to a godlike library of materials and medicines, but we are reading the instructions through a blurred lens. The financial mindset often tells us that faster is always better, that efficiency is the ultimate goal. But in this race to delete time, we might be deleting something else, our role as the primary architects of our own civilization. As we stand at this crossroads, looking at a map of matter that has expanded 10 times in a single month, we have to ask ourselves, are we still the explorers, or are we just following a trail left by a machine we can no longer keep up with? Because as this race reaches its final lap, the finish line looks less like a destination and more like a total transformation of what it means to be human in an automated world.
The finish line of this race isn't a destination, it's a total transformation. We have to realize that we are no longer living in an era of mere change. We are living in the age of absolute acceleration. The 800-year barrier that once defined the pace of human progress hasn't just been broken, it has been deleted. AI has handed us a map of a new material universe, expanding our possibilities by 10 times in a single month. But as we stand at this starting line, we look less like the masters of technology and more like spectators staring at a landscape we didn't draw and using tools we can't fully explain. We are gaining the world, but are we losing our grip on the why? If tomorrow AI discovers a material that grants biological immortality or unlocks the secret to interstellar travel, would we be ready to embrace it? Could we truly trust a miracle if we don't understand the math behind it? Or are we comfortable living in a world powered by a black box of knowledge? This is the ultimate paradox of our time. We are moving faster than ever toward a future we understand less than ever. So, what do you think? Are you excited about this compressed future, or does the idea of an incomprehensible black box of knowledge worry you? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to stay ahead of the curve as AI continues to rewrite the rules of our world, make sure to hit the subscribe button and watch the recommended video on your screen right now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next Fast Forward.